Distinguished press, men and women, ladies and gentlemen, as government agent in the electoral process, I invited you once again this Saturday, October 25th, 2025, to inform you on certain events that could seriously jeopardize the security of our nation at a time when we are gradually moving towards the proclamation of the results of the President of the Republic of the October 12, 2025 election. In fact, on the night of 22nd October 2025, 3 terrorists were arrested as they were trying to sneak a huge quantity of explosives into the town of Garwa, obviously to carry out terrorist attacks under post-electoral tensions masterminded by some irresponsible political leaders. Their planned modus operandi is to infiltrate groups of protesters and commit terrorist attacks leading to the loss of human lives, which could later be attributed to the forces of law and order. Last Tuesday in Yaoundé, during a street protest organized by a group of drunk individuals proclaiming the so-called victory of the self-acclaimed president, one of his representatives was arrested amongst the demonstrators with an automatic pistol, ammunition, and a huge sum of money. This individual of dubious morality could have opened fire on the crowd so that such a heinous act should be falsely attributed to security forces. This strategy was recently observed during an illegal manifestation organized in Garwa last October 21st by sympathizers of the self-proclaimed President of the Republic, notably the case of Madame Zuhaira Hassan, teacher at the Pumpumre Arabic Primary School, which was maliciously attributed to the forces of law and order by a bought-over media of the rebellious movement, whereas the father of the deceased clearly stated that she had been savagely assassinated by a civilian. A criminal investigation has been opened by the relevant authorities to shed light on this matter and identify the culprits. As you may recall, during my previous press briefings, I insisted that there was a well-planned, well-orchestrated plan to ignite an insurrection led by a political figure who fully aware of his inability to win through democratic means sought to seize power by street protests. Their strategy was straightforward. On the night of 12 October 2025, they intended to publish fake results on social media declaring the opposition candidate as winner. Recent events in our country have clearly confirmed the concern that I raised with you. In the early hours of 14th of October 2025, a candidate in the recent presidential election, after flooding social media with false and incomplete results, proceeded to unlawfully declare himself winner of the election. Acting on his promptings, his supporters organized a violent protest in several parts of the country, particularly in Cham, which led to the destruction of public infrastructure. However, thanks to the professionalism of our security forces and administrative authorities, public order has been restored. Calm now prevails throughout the national territory. I would like to emphasize that in connection with this insurrectional movement, investigations have been opened and a number of people have already been arrested. Others are actively being hunted and will be held accountable for their actions before the competent courts. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, in the early 90s, our country suffered the tragic consequences of rebellion with the advent of multi-party politics. Indeed, since 2016, the Northwest and Southwest regions have been facing security crisis that continues to affect the populations of these regions, in addition to the attacks by Boko Haram in the Far North region, whose disastrous effects are severe on the economic and social development of these regions in particular, and our nation in general. Cameroon can therefore not afford the luxury of a new security crisis, which would worsen the sufferings of our compatriots and jeopardize the implementation of our country's development policy, so well defined by the head of state, His Excellency President Paul Biya. Calls for protests by certain politicians with an obsession for power undoubtedly create condition for security crisis. As a minister in charge of liberties, I would like to remind everyone that the right to protest is guaranteed by the laws and regulations in force in the nation. However, as in all democracies, the exercise of this freedom is regulated and subject to certain conditions, such as prior authorization from competent authorities, details of the purpose of the manifestation, and the routes to be taken by protesters, and the identification of organizers in order to establish responsibility in the event of any misconduct. Consequently, any demonstration that does not comply with these requirements is illegal, and those who initiated it would be held accountable for their actions in accordance with the laws of the nation. I therefore call on parents to ensure the safety of their children and not allow them to be manipulated or misled by certain corrupt, selfish, and irresponsible politicians. I urge the latter not to use our children to perpetrate their devilish plans. I call on our compatriots in the diaspora to be more responsible and avoid as much as possible the propagation of false information. I would like to encourage public opinion leaders, traditional rulers, religious authorities, and the various components of the nation, wherever they may be, to promote peace, unity, stability, and living together. We know we can count on the democratic majority of Cameroonians and their deep-rooted commitment to peace and living together, values dear to the President of the Republic, His Excellency, President Paul Biya. I take this opportunity to call upon media professionals to uphold their Republican duty of informing, educating, and raising awareness amongst population. They will certainly recall the destructive role played by the so-called hate media during the genocide that occurred in an East African country some years ago. Let it be clear, and I want to say it clearly, that any media outlet promoting insurrection, spreading hate speech, or false information will face the full force of the law, sooner or later. Cameroon, a beautiful country, is a state governed by the rule of law, and any dispute regarding the results of the election must be brought before competent authorities in strict compliance clearly understood, and I want to say it again, that being a presidential candidate does not in any way confer immunity upon anyone. I say it again. It should be clearly understood that being a presidential candidate does not in any way confer immunity on anyone. I wish to reassure the population that the state has taken all necessary measures to maintain order and to prevent any attempt to create disorder or to destabilize our country. In any case, the laws of the land shall prevail, and defaulters should not take it lightly. I want to call on Cameroonians to go about their daily activities as usual, while waiting for the official proclamation of the presidential election results by the Constitutional Council, the only competent body to do so. That said, I wish to thank you for your kind attention. Let us all be custodians of peace, unity, and living together. Thank you.